access to.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
Awesome. So when you start off with people, I think the first step, and this is something that we had to do because we've got a couple of people, obviously, that join in locally. We've got people that watch online, but we're the furthest along in our group so far. And we're making moves and we're trying to crush and we're trying to figure out how do we, pivot and shift this year. And we've got a sabbatical coming up. So that's a whole nother issue. But
Hmm.
so we're trying to advance our business, and I've got methods to do that. But a lot of people are at this sticking point right in the beginning. And this is I think it's going to be something that we see with a lot of people is there's an idea and then there's, they get excited about a couple of things, they get amped up about it, and then something happens and they don't move forward to the next step.
Hmm.
As we went around in the circle, everybody had something like that in our local group. And I was like, okay, why haven't you moved forward? I gave you this challenge 3 months ago and you still haven't taken it. And it's not that hard of one. And why haven't you moved forward? You said all you need to do is go talk to the HR person at your work. And that's taking you 2.5 months to do. So I think there's these sticking points that people have. And so one of the things is the first sticking point you're going to come into with somebody who's a new intern is what route do I pick? What's
Mm.
what's the entrepreneurship? What's the business I want to build? What's the thing I want to get into? And so the first step is getting through that Venn diagram, but doing it in a methodical way. So there's some things that, and we had to go over this with our group the other day. Some of these things, so you've got the skill set, and for that one, I told everyone write down what you think your skills are, and then go ask your friends what they think your skills are. Because the truth
Hmm.
is that a lot of times we know a little bit about ourselves, but other people see our skill sets in an entirely different light. And they go, oh, you're actually really good at this. And so you should dig into this area. So
Hmm.
write down your own list. And I'm big on don't do this in your head. Do this on paper. Emotions live in the air, facts live on paper. So write this stuff down.
Hmm.
So put the things down, make a list of what you think your skills are, and then follow it up with things that other people say you're good at. Secondly, so you've got skill set, then you've got passion. What do you like to do? What's a blast for you? What's fun? What brings you excitement? That's something only that other people can't help you with that. The skills other people can help you. Your passion is only going to be you. And in any business,
Hmm.
you're going to be not passionate about it for some period of time. But what are you passionate about? And then thirdly is what makes you money. So that's where I encourage people to go. And I know this sounds crazy, but go to YouTube and find one of the videos that's 10 ways to make, $10,000 a month in 2024. Go spend a week just watching those videos and write down some of the different job titles and job sets that look passive to you or that you can build into a passive business, and then then take your list, take what you're passionate about, and take what makes you money and see if there's some overlap there. So
Cool.
if somebody can do that, that is a great start. And then they can start down the route of, okay, what does it look like to build a business? What does it look like to actually start selling these things or marketing these things? And a lot of that, I mean, honestly, with all this Airbnb stuff, we learned, I'd say 85% of it from YouTube. And we learned
Hmm.
15% of it from a friend that we found who was further along than we were.
Wow. Fair
And
enough.
so, with all of these different areas, you can buy a course for $500. You can buy a course for $1,000. We are not, one of the things I think I nailed down is that I can't be I don't know all these different businesses.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know my business and I know Airbnb and I know real estate, but people are going to choose different stuff. And so so step number two is find a good way to learn. And a part of that's going to be on YouTube, and a part of that's going to be you need to go find a mentor as well who
Hmm.
will take you under their wing and go, okay, yeah, let me help you with some of this stuff, share your vision with that person, and then, present them why you're doing what you're doing. And a lot of people think it's really honorable to go, hey, I'm trying to build ministry and I want to be able to plant churches or I want to be able to just give to the church in a way that's beneficial or serve a ministry. And a lot of people will give you free help. Now, some won't, but that's okay. So find somebody who will mentor you at the same time in the field that you land on being interested in. And then a lot of the business principles and a lot of the ministry principles that go hand in hand together. How do we, communicate to our congregations that we're doing something else? How much time during a week should you spend building a business? What's a good goal for 1 year marker? And some of that's going to be dependent upon, the city. Like I can pay an intern $1,000 a month and they can get by if I find housing for them as well. So if I find housing, like, hey, single sister, would you mind if your spare bedroom, the sister crashes off, out for the next year? So what's the goal for that intern then? That intern's goal is, okay, I bought you 1 year. Now you have 1 year to build a business that supports itself. So you need to replace $1,000 a month in 1 year's time because I don't have money for you next year. So
That's a good goal. That's very generous as well.
it's a good goal. And I mean, the cool thing is that there's all sorts of models that could explode from there. If you, let's say your church has an extra $1,000 a month or whatever it is, for your local congregation, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 500. I don't know. It's going to depend on the city and the country. But let's say you've got $1,000 a month that you can consistently, that's not special, or maybe you give that for special every year. And so you can have one intern every year. Well, if you put this model into practice, you don't have one intern each year, or you don't have one intern that you just keep paying year in and year out. You get a new one intern every year with that $12,000. Because the first one gets self-supporting. Then the next one comes along and you go, okay, you have 1 year. Boom. You have 1 year. Boom. And then in 5 years, you have 5 interns that cost you the same as one intern for 5 years.
That is awesome. I
So,
get that.
so there's a lot of different models that you could like play with depending on what your church has and what they can do. Or you could set out, like, I think one of the things for those who really are doing well, I think one of the lessons I want to teach them is, hey, if this takes off for you, before you get, rich, I want you to like sign a contract that says you're going to invest back into this program by sponsoring another intern somewhere else. It doesn't need to be locally, or it could be locally, but use what God is giving you to reinvest in this program and reinvest in the system of building up more interns and all sorts of different people. So that might be an interesting thing to do with people as well, where you go, okay, let's get something in writing here. And if it's not going to work for everybody. And the other thing too is that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. It's hard. This is not, you take 10 interns. I don't know what the numbers are going to shake out to, but it's certainly not 100%, probably not even 80%, maybe 40% or 50% of them could even do both at the same time, just because of the way that people are wired and whatnot. But it's way more plausible today than it was 10, 20, or 30 years ago.
Yeah, I'd say that 40% or 50% strike rate is still very high.
It is. And it's still high. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's for interns. So if you've got 10 interns to start with, then maybe that many of them could even be interested in it. So
No, fair enough. Fair enough. No, that makes sense. That's cool. I really like that idea of reinvesting, actually. I never really thought about that concept of like, okay, if there's like do you base it off like a certain money? Like you hit a certain revenue target and you're like, okay, well, if you hit here, then hey, it would be good for you to start thinking, hey, let's reinvest here.
yeah.
in the future
And I mean,
income.
again, that's going to depend. Like, let's say you've got an intern who's making $1,000 a month. I mean, that's pretty bare bones. That's not much. They're on the line. So it'd be healthy if they were at $2,000 a month. Well, how long are they going to stay single for? Because if they get married, then that number is going to need to bump up some more. So
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
those things,
sure.
it's like, well, they got married, and so they needed like 3 to 4 a month to support both of them. And so it's going to be, I think it's going to be fluid and it's going to be dependent. But I think, you know, at some point in time, once they're able to start saving a certain amount of money, you want to go, all right, now that you've got, you know, a couple extra $2,000 extra a month that you don't need to live, your cost of living, you know, your cost of what you're making is higher than your cost of living is, which that's going to change and move, right?
Hmm.
So once that is surpassed by this percentage, then I think it's time to start reinvesting. And that allows, so what the nice thing about putting it in terms of cost of living is that allows that flexibility, because cost of living is going to drastically increase as you get married, as you have kids, you know, all these different things are going to change that. And so it might be a while, because they might get to a spot and go, hey, here's the max. I feel like if I put in 5 hours a week, that I make this amount of money. And in order to make any more, I've got to put in another 5, and I don't want to do that. Okay, great. Then you've landed at a great spot in your life, and don't invest more until something comes along where you're able to. So I think, you know, we want to have a lot of flexibility, because the jobs are going to be so different. The market's going to look so different. The country is going to look so different. Everything is going to be so variable within, you know, tent making, that it's yeah, it's very, very different. So
Hmm.
yeah. What
Fair
question?
enough.
Anything?
Um, no, that makes sense. I think more the other question I was thinking of practically was like when you start, let's say you provide a year, like for the intern, what is do they month to month investment in terms of investing time into the building the business? Is that what's the expectations there initially, or is it all consistent all throughout those 12 months? Like what does
Right.
that look like?
So again, it's gonna be somewhat variable, right? So for me, I think about it and I go, all right, what we should, like, our intern came in, she needs time. She was from another city. So we hired from outside of our city. Now, if it would have been someone who had been here for a while, that's a different story. But someone
Mm,
coming in from the outside, they need to acclimate, they need to get to know everybody. I want them to have a strong ministry career start. So for
mm,
someone like that, I'm going, take your month, get an idea of maybe what you want to do, and then we'll move forward from there. And then after that, at $1,000 a month, that's considered part-time for us in the States. And so that
mm,
means that I expect her to also part-time build this business. So what we told our intern was, I expect you Monday through Friday, or 5 days out of the week, let's say, to be putting in an extra 2 hours a day into building your business.
cool.
So out of your day, 2 hours each day need to be working on this so that it can build, so that you can be in this spot within a, you know, a reasonable amount of time. So, and I think that's, you know, especially as you're starting off, and if it's someone who's, you know, someone who's single, so they have a lot more time throughout the day. So 2 hours to them is not the same amount of time as 2 hours of someone who's married with kids, who has that much more responsibility. For someone married with
Right.
kids, you really only have 10 hours in the day to work, because you need to spend time with your family and whatnot. Versus someone who's
Mm.
single, you ain't got no family. So you can work 16-hour days. You know,
Yeah.
depending on, you know, everything that you call work within the ministry. So
Hmm. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, no, that's pretty much it for me from what you've shared. But I guess the next thing would be, um, would we have a little bit of time? I've got, I guess, a little bit. I think I've only got like until 9, so 32 minutes.
mhm.
Is um, there like, would it be in order for me to start something from scratch with you, would it be to, would I need like information of the Venn diagram for me to fill out to be able to start um, something here right now to be able to, what does that look like in terms of,
Yeah. So what's your current job?
so I'm an account manager. So it's very, so like 80% of it is relationship management between myself and business owners.
Okay.
And so I look after a portfolio of like roughly between two and 300 clientele. One of them is a group. So I talk with the GM of a particular group who owns like 20 or actually over 30 stores across the country. And so I'm going to an expo in April on behalf of the company to be able to release a new product that we've just partnered up with Google. And so so basically I'm all about relationships and just keeping key clientele repeat with our business. And so it's all about relationship management. I would come from a sales background, so there's a little bit because of this new product, we are going to change my role into a 50-50 split of selling and retaining the current clientele. And so those are my two key strengths. Those are the only two key areas that I have experience in the work industry, which is like 10 plus years, roughly.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think a good start for you would definitely be doing the whole Venn diagram thing, asking. So you've got a couple of skill sets you know about already because of your current job. But then the other thing you got to decide is, do you want to take the job that you have? So, because so far we've talked about interns making the like that don't have backgrounds in jobs for the most part. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
campus students or maybe, low-level workers coming in and building something for the first time. So that's one group of people. The other group of people is going to be either guys like you or other ministers who are going, hey, I have this side hustle that I've already been working on so that I can retire someday. But this would be really cool if I can amplify it to the point where it becomes something that we could retire with. Like that's where we started. It was a side hustle. And I went, I think this can grow into something bigger. What are we going to do with our money? And we're going to reinvest it to the church by not having the church pay us anymore. That's kind of
Mm.
how this whole thing got kickstarted initially. So you're in the boat where you have a job and you can keep working it and try to build something else on the side, or you can take the job that you have and the skill sets that you already have and try to transition your job into something that becomes more passive. So
Hmm.
that's one of the things that you've got to decide as well. For instance, one of our guys, his name is Raphael, and he's in GIS. So he looks at maps all day long and drones that fly over stuff, and he does software programming for this company, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a pretty high level career
Mm-hmm.
for a grad student like him. And so instead of just building something from scratch, finding something online, watching, he doesn't want to do this whole Venn diagram thing, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to take GIS and figure out a way to make it as passive and automated as possible. So he's not working for another company, but he can build relationships and build software that he could then
Mm-hmm.
sell and is automated. So he started working on a piece of software that he could sell on his own, and then that would bring him money. And he talked about, okay, being somebody who's more of a contract worker, so he can set contracts up in his own time. And so maybe he works a 40-hour week with all these contracts, and then he's off the next 3 weeks. And he gets to choose how much, he puts one whole weekend and then goes, okay, now I'm on campus for 3 weeks, or now I'm digging in with the singles, or whatever. So that's another method. And I think that's the first step for someone like you is deciding, are you trying to take what you have already, basically account manager, and trying to build relationships with people and marketing and build something from that yourself? Or do you want to try something completely different from scratch, hopefully using some of the things that you've learned along the way being an account manager?
Hmm. I'm more leaning towards the idea of doing something separate on the side. Because I can't really visualize what it looks like doing something on my own in my field. Because that would be, I mean, I guess literally what we're talking about right now, literally like branching off completely from my current job to be able to start up something from scratch on my own. And so I think that would require me to be able to, like many hours. I can't see myself doing that practically, but I think slowly building something on the side consistently would be more practical for where I am, especially um, at my stage of life with being married and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think like we said, like in terms of life stages, I think I think I don't have those 16 hours.
Right. Yeah.
um,
Totally.
but yeah,
Okay. That makes sense. And do you want it to be something that's related to your field or totally new?
I think related to my field, like in terms of sales, like I am very passionate about that. And it is something that I do generate money from. Um, and so I have a key interest I have kind of dabbled a little bit in looking into it already in terms of like a couple of YouTube videos of like what people are doing. And I found this like really cool guy on YouTube who uses this software um, called Gelato. And basically it's t-shirts, mugs, uh, designs, and it's kind of the software itself is linked to Etsy.
Okay.
Um, and so when you design these shirts, they pretty much design it on your behalf. There's no, um, it's kind of like you put in the design, someone orders it off Etsy, they can produce it and send it out. And it all syncs in terms of like uh margins. You can set that. They take care of the shipping and whatnot and ETAs. It's all kind of like synced into the Etsy platform. And so, yeah, I was kind of like, okay, I can see how this could work. But I guess it is kind of like attuned with like what my skill set is, but also as well like design and whatnot. It's like that's something kind of like completely new, which my wife would be actually really good at because she's a teacher, but she uses a lot of like Canva and stuff like that with um her PowerPoint presentations at work with students and stuff like that. So she's a painter as well. There's a couple of portraits up here that she's done, so she can
And
definitely help out on that.
and is she fired up about this idea and plan as well?
She's a little bit on the skeptical side, but she's kind of keen to help out whenever I need it. So okay, that's actually kind of helpful.
Yeah, I mean, because for instance, Waldine and I work really, really well together in the Airbnb business because, listen, the truth is that I'm not the biggest fan of like talking to people out of the blue. It's, I'm numbers, I'm data, I'm visionary, but don't
Mhm.
put me in charge of HR. Like people aren't going to like me or the company. So but she is like so good at that stuff. And so she handles all the communication for our Airbnb and she'll call people when, there's problems and make them feel better. And so for you, you're like the sales and the numbers guy, and your wife
Mhm.
can do design work or help you with, that type of thing. And so you actually, if she's down, then it makes sense to actually build something together at the same time where, she's creating great designs and or maybe tweaking some of the stuff that you've got and then able to put it up there and you're the one doing the web work and all that kind of jazz. So
Yeah.
if I don't know how down she is into just building a business on the side, period. Um, but that's it's an easy way to get involved with it. So that's one of our interns, Maria, the one that we actually pay. She's doing the same concept. So
Cool.
going online. So she's trying to start doing it with like planners. So she's
Hmm.
making digital planners and then selling those. And that's her like what she's trying to start off with. But actually I was looking at the website while you were talking about it. It's something that I probably want to do with my kids. My kids have designs that they make and we put them
Hmm.
on hats and t-shirts and then we sell them to friends and family. And I've been wanting to like scale their businesses to the next level. And so,
Cool.
and I know that this thing is out there. I just haven't spent the time. So you mentioned it, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what we've been looking for. So perfect. But that's, and that might even be fun too. Well, you don't have kids yet, but um, Yeah, so a lot of that kind of stuff is market research, finding out what's out there, what's small and what's working. And you can
Mm-hmm.
find out all sorts of, I mean, they've got, I watched a video a few weeks ago of a guy who said, okay, in 45 minutes or in 2 hours, I'm going to see how much money I can make by setting this thing up and then letting it start generate. And it wasn't a ton of money, but it was enough to go, okay, I get it. There's an easy way to make money here by selling things online that you don't have to do the printing, you don't have to do the shipping.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is put the design work online. And then if you can add marketing to it, then all the better for you. And
Yeah.
if you've got good designs, which, the funny thing is that since 2023, the market's going to be more saturated because you can create designs on stuff that's all AI based.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but so if you got someone like your wife that's creating original artwork, then
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So
That sounds okay. That sounds pretty good. I'll
So
run and
I'd
buy
say
it.
that's a good talk to your wife about that one, see what she thinks, and then, start building it out and watching more videos and then figuring out market and then what type of stuff you want to do. You do hats, you do cups, and who's your market going to be? Because that'll, change that. You're going to do youth or you're going to do middle age. What's the right category for that? And then actually, it'd be fun if you and your wife I can sit in if you want, but our intern paid $1,000 and took a course
Mm-hmm.
on this. And so she probably has a ton she could be like one of those mentor types going, okay, or maybe not mentor, but at least someone who can collab with you and go, all right, we're doing this at the same time. Like one of her big ideas was doing it for
Mm-hmm.
Alpha Omega as a whole. So
Wow.
a drop shipping thing for Alpha Omega. You send in your design. What do you want? T-shirts, hoodies, hats. Okay. Notebooks, planners for your campus ministry. Boom. You send it in. She posts it, prints it out, and you can, ship an order 50, 100, 25, whatever your ministry needs of their theme for the next semester for the next year. Now that market's too small to make tons of money off of, but it's a cool way to serve the kingdom at the same time. So
Yeah. No, that's actually really cool. I like that.
yeah.
Cool.
So cool. So it sounds like you've actually already got a good path or route. If that's something that, watch a few more videos, see if there's anything else that piques your interest. But if that's the direction you're headed in, then awesome. That's a great start.
Cool. Cool. And I guess the other thing I was thinking of is um, what would be if we're looking to kind of catch up like once a month, what would be like a good goal for me to have ready and prepared by the next time we kind of catch up? Like, what would that look like practically for me?
Yeah, I think it depends on your like eagerness to dive in. Um, so I could see you going one of two ways. I could see you going, okay, in a month, I've landed on what I want. This is the direction I want to go in. Here's the business model. What do we think the next steps are from here? And maybe a text message or WhatsApp message ahead of time and kind of let me know where you're at. Because if so, we might be able to pull Maria in at that point in time and have an interesting discussion and conversation about where you're at and everything. Or if you're like just crazy gung ho and you're like, yep, I figured it out in a week. And then my wife already made the first design and I want to do t-shirts and here's how I want to do it. And, it really depends, I think, on where you're at and the speed that you want to build this in. So
Gotcha.
if you want to go 100 miles an hour, you can. And I really like to think of this as seasonal. It's the way I like to build. So a part of that is you're going to know your seasons better than anyone else does. Or at least locally, Rob might be able to help you out with it too. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
my seasons of being able to push big are summertime, Thanksgiving, and December. January, February, March are nuts and hectic. And then as
Mm-hmm.
campus starts to slow down, summertime gets slow. and people are out of town on vacation, so church numbers are way down. And I
Mm-hmm.
might be focusing on some training for those who are still around, but there's nobody on campus either. So I don't expect my campus students to be out nearly as much. So that's the time when ministry slows down and I can ramp up a little bit for
Oh,
building something like that. Thanksgiving break, I get like a whole week off. So I've built stuff over Thanksgiving break. I mean, many times in my life, just building projects around the house, or okay, we're going to demo
mhm.
that wall and put in a new one, or whatever it is. For That's a great time. And then December, once the first week of December hits, there's other things that get hectic, like family type stuff with Christmas around the corner and buying gifts for people. But ministry slows way down because everyone else is doing the same thing. People are out of town, they're vacationing, we don't have nearly as many church services in the month of December. So that's another slowdown point for me. So then I can ramp up this business stuff, and okay, I can spend more time sitting down at the computer and spend 5 hours in a day working on building out this stuff. um so those are some things. And then I'd say the other thing is figuring out what you're great at and what you're not, and how to fill in the gaps for what you're not. So
Okay.
for me, like, and we can do a thing on this for you, but one of the things that my coach is helping me with and has this year is the idea of opportunity cost. And so I've started thinking that way in a lot of different areas. So I have put a dollar value on my time. So for
Mm,
me, at this stage in my life, my time value is $50 an hour. So what does that mean? That means that if it's more, or if it's cheaper than $50 an hour for me to do it, I'm hiring someone else to do it.
cool.
So, like, let's say building a website. I can learn most things. I'm fairly technical. I'm good at building with my hands, blah, blah, blah. I could figure
Hmm.
out, I only took one programming class in college, but I helped out with the church website. And if we're using Wix or something like that, then I could figure out how to build a website, and I can make it look decent and bounce enough ideas off of people. But it's going to take me 20 or 30 hours to get something that's like exactly what I want.
Hmm.
So at, let's say it's 20 hours at $50 an hour, that's $2,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much would it cost me to hire someone on Fiverr to build a website that's going to look really good, and I don't have to touch it? Maybe I spend an hour back and forth sending them, tweaking, and telling them exactly what I want. $250. So in
Hmm.
opportunity cost, I just saved myself about $1,650
Gotcha.
in time.
Thanks.
So you put a price value on your time and how much you make and how much you're willing to hire out for other things. And you go, okay, I could sit on Canva and I could try and come up with a logo, but it's going to take me 2 to 3 hours of tweaking. And then I'm only going to have one, and I got to bounce it off other people and ideas. And I value myself at $50 an hour. So that's $150. If I go to Fiverr, someone will do it for $5 or $10, and it'll have two different designs. And then I can take that and tweak it to exactly what I want it in 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to go that route. So
Hmm.
figuring out how much you feel like you're worth for your time, and then going from there. And all right, sounds good. What are some of the things that I'm not good at or quick enough to do by myself? And then maybe your wife fills in those gaps. And then if she
Hmm.
can't fill in those gaps, then you hire someone off Fiverr, which is honestly probably one of the best spots, because you spend 10 minutes looking at reviews, making sure they've got what you want, have a few tabs
Hmm.
open, a few different people, land on the one you like the best for your style and that kind of thing, and then pull the trigger. Easy. You're golden and good to go. So
Cool.
I think that's a really good way to try and evaluate yourself for instance, my real estate broker wants me to go take photographs. And I'm like, it takes me too long to do that. I've done it for my own houses and I can do it, but I won't because I've got too many things going on in my life. And that one I don't value enough to go into it. So I'm sorry, but I'm not doing photography for us. So anyway,
That's okay. No, that's a really good way to value even your time. I've never kind of thought about it like that. That's actually really great. Um,
it makes things really simple for me, and it also helps me to say no to things that I feel guilty about.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
with other people.
Yeah, and then also as well, it's just for me to be able to, if I was able to paint the picture that way to my wife in terms of being able to pull the trigger and something like that too, and trust someone
Yes.
with that task, you'd be able to quantify and be able to like explain it in money terms to make it make sense. So
Yes.
that's very easy and tangible to be able to grasp. So
Right. Yep.
it's awesome.
Yeah, that website one, that's exactly what I did with Waldina, my wife. I went, okay,
Yeah.
here it would take me 20 hours. Do you want me to spend 20 hours on this, or can we go hire this guy for 250? Look at his websites. I've already filtered them all down. Check this guy out. Do you like it? And she was like, oh yeah, for 250 versus you spending 20 hours, no brainer. And I was like, I still
That is awesome.
it's
I
great.
love that. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that.
So
Cool. No, that sounds great. I think I think what I would love to unless you've already done it, like send me a Venn diagram by email or something like that. So I can fill out the gaps with those stuff. And if there's any other training material that you guys have, I'd love to look at it and just be able to go from there.
yeah. So I would definitely watch the last YouTube video we did. That's
Hmm.
from like 2 weeks ago. Did you already watch that one?
No, I've only seen, I saw one of your first ones on real estate and it went for like 47 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Watch the last one. It's real good as far as the business side of things. We went over that, and then I can send you. It's like a 15 minute. It's an hour and some odd change long video, but I just had all of us watch the first third of it, which is 15 minutes, and he really breaks down some of those concepts that I was talking about as far as sticking in one lane, don't give up, and build with a firm foundation as well. That was one of the big things that we talked about this last tent making meeting is don't, plan to scale. So it's
Hmm.
if you're going to get to a point and if you've built the wrong way, everything's going to topple once it gets too big because you don't have the right foundation underneath. And Airbnb is an easy one for that. It's like, okay, I went and bought 10 properties and I'm trying to manage 10 properties by myself while running the ministry. And I didn't get any other software or any other, I'm trying to manage cleaners and all this stuff. You're done. That is not going to work. You have got to have software in place that automates all this. You can't run
Hmm.
10 of those on your own. So, stuff like that, where you build a good foundation, you do things the right way, right from the start. You get a business bank account, so that the tax entities, see it the right way. You get a official business, and so that you're ready to scale when it comes instead of what you don't want to do is you're ready to scale and all of a sudden the business starts coming and you've got 15 other things you've got to do just to make it grow because then it's going to topple on you. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's in the last video. Um, and I had everyone watch this 15-minute segment ahead of time. So that would be helpful. I don't think I've got your email address. So can you send me your email address so that I can, in the WhatsApp
Hmm.
chat that we have,
Yep.
so that I can make sure
Absolutely.
to send you right now. I'll send you the Venn diagram. Actually, do you want it in email or do you want
Sweet. I can just do that. I can just do that right now, actually.
to? I'll throw it in here too, just so that it's in multiple places for you. Got it. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Hmm.